Hey everyone, I'm Pat Monahan, your host and narrator here on the Patcast. Well, folks, the Pergo Jerry Challenge is over. We have a winner. The Patcast merch is in the mail, and we would like to thank everyone who participated by sending in their suggestions on Twitter for embarrassing things for Pergo and Jerry to do. I'm going to try to get them to do some of these things in the privacy of my home. We hate to keep you in suspense, but unfortunately, we're going to keep you in suspense. We will, on a future podcast, have Pergo and Jerry do something, and we are all very excited about what that is. But right now, we are on a break. We won't be able to get to those suggestions of yours and put those two in a room together for a while. So we will announce the winner and unveil the winning suggestion on an upcoming podcast. Stay tuned for details. I'm very sorry. It's just like waiting for a single. It's like waiting for a record, waiting for this Pergo Jerry challenge. It's going to be amazing, and I can't wait till you get to see it. And of course, just a reminder, tickets for the Sail Across the Sun Cruise 2015 are officially on sale. You can find out more info and get those tickets on sailacrossthesun.com. And don't forget to check out the Family House crowdfunding campaign at familyhouseinc.org. That's a charity we work with, and they are working towards building a new facility to house families of sick children and their families in San Francisco. Find out more about all this stuff and anything and everything train-related at SaveMeSanFrancisco.com. Emo, a flightless bird. Nope. A psychological condition? Sometimes, probably, yes. A style of music? It gets complicated. Emo started as a tag given to punk bands that brought a bit more feeling and melody into their songwriting and left out some of the black eyes and middle fingers. But like most musical styles, emo starts out by giving a name to a sound and eventually becomes limiting. As a style evolves, the band that takes on the label may conform to a sound and they may go beyond it, but ultimately many names that critics and fans give a music end up being catch-alls for something that's harder to describe than the name can encompass. So how does one get tagged with the emo brand? Power chords, lyrics about heartbreak and loss, and Warped Tour. Playing Warped Tour especially. That's the best way to get tagged as an emo band. This week's guest was a mainstay in the emo and pop-punk community for years, but he grew up playing piano and listening to a lot of music. He actually grew up as a Train fan, going to Train shows, and I met him when he was just a teenager. He's come a long way since then. Something Corporate became a well-known name on the Warped Tour scene, and Andrew McMahon was the lead singer and principal songwriter in that band. He first got signed to a record deal in 2000 while he was still in high school. He signed with Drive-Thru Records, which was, for some time, churning out emo bands left and right. So they did with Something Corporate what they had done with many of their other bands and put them on Warped Tour. And it worked. Something Corporate was off to a very good start. They got upstreamed to a major label deal with MCA and continued to tour successfully for several years. In 2003, a new project was already in the works. It was basically a solo project, but it still had a backing band and a band name. They called themselves Jack's Mannequin. And from 2003 to 2012, that was Andrew McMahon's main artistic pursuit. But just as Jack's Mannequin was finishing its first record, Andrew's life was altered by a terrible turn of events. He was diagnosed with leukemia, and it would put his career on hold for a while. His story was a happy ending, as he beat the disease and has continued to write and play music, and is completely cancer-free. He also did something that many people would never think to do in this situation. He started recording. Every moment of his battle with cancer is on video, and with that video, he created a documentary called Dear Jack, which serves as a love letter to his fans and as a message of consolation and hope to anyone who has battled cancer. He also started a nonprofit organization, also called Dear Jack, that helps young adults diagnosed with cancer. As soon as he had regained his health, Andrew returned to full-time songwriting and performing with Jack's Mannequin. Now he is just beginning a new chapter in his career. He is stretching out musically and lyrically as a solo artist and going beyond his punk rock roots. He's working on a new record that is scheduled to be released sometime in the next few months. And he will be opening for Gavin DeGraw and Matt Nathanson on their tour this summer. I think they'll have a great time since I know Matt and Gavin are great guys and fans of great music. So for this week's Patcast, it's my friend and great musician, the singer of Something Corporate and Jack's Mannequin, and now a solo artist as well, Andrew McMahon.
What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you. You got to get it while the getting is good. Laugh when you can, cry when you should. You got to give it till the giving is gone. Do what you can, then you move on. What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking. What do you do? What do you do when nobody's looking? Nobody's looking, looking at you.
That F. Are you doing a? What's your, you kind of got a?
I got an F sharp. It's F sharp minor. I'm adding the 7.
Gotcha.
You know.
Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay. Fun.
I'm good. You guys good?
Yeah, we're good.
I'm cool.
Hey everybody, we're back, and I'm here with a very interesting guy. His name is Andrew McMahon. I think he's most interesting because he's Irish. You are Irish, right?
I am
Andrew?
an Irishman. Yes.
All right. We have a really long history, but no one else in the world knows it. And I just want to get to the basics before I ask you all of the real questions that are. You know, you're one of the most compelling humans, maybe on the earth, but definitely in music. But first, let's get to the not so compelling parts.
Sure. Sounds good.
Or the regular people parts, like people like me. But like, you're from Massachusetts originally?
Yeah, I was born in Concord, Massachusetts. I don't.
How long were you there? Because
barely at all. I mean, a couple years.
You're a California kid.
Pretty much. I mean, my parents were both in retail. Oh, look, that's the most professional thing I've done today. There's my cell phone. And it's management. Love it.
Oh, yeah, good.
Perfect. Did you get to the interview on time? So, yeah, my father was in retail, and so we moved around a ton. So I was East Coast, Jersey, Chicago, Ohio, and then made it to California, like just about 8th grade, like right before high school.
So you went from Massachusetts to all those other places before you went to California?
Yeah.
Well, you ended up in a good spot. So
Yeah.
you ended up living in, like, basically Orange County, right?
Yeah, South Orange County. Dana Point is kind of where I grew up.
And was it your mom and Charlie Colleen's mom that were friends?
No, it's actually it's a crazy story. Charlie Colleen's mom substitute taught in my freshman drama class.
Wow.
And we actually didn't get along at all. Like I was like the dickhead kid throwing like paper wads at her back when we were,
good.
you know, like it was one of these things. Like, yeah, I was a jerk when I was in high school, but she heard me play the piano and sing in the drama class and came up to me and said, you know, my son's in a band. And I remember being like, oh, great. Yes.
Great. I got to hear my son's in a band story.
And you know, I was 14. I hadn't even started my first band at that point, but I had been writing music since I was like 9. And she said, he's in this band called Train and they're about to get really big. I mean, she was mom, you know, and we started we had a friendship. Like I talked
that's cool.
I talked
that
to
started
Ann.
a friendship for you guys.
Yeah, she's a great lady. And randomly I was in San Francisco and I hit her up because she said, if you ever go to San Francisco, let me know and I'll see if I can introduce you to the band, you know? And you guys were playing a show at the Fillmore the one night
funny.
that I was in San Francisco. Yeah, and I came out and I came to sound check at the Fillmore, and that was like the thing that made me go, I need to start a rock band.
Well, I guess what I wanted to mention about all this stuff is, I mean, I feel like you probably owe me some publishing. I'm getting to the money part.
It's true. Yeah. Well,
I mean, I found you, bro.
Basically, yeah. No, it's crazy. You guys were. I mean, I don't know how much you remember of it. You know, because it was a lifetime ago. I mean, I doubled in age since we first met. And
yeah, that's true. Wow. Yeah, you're 30 now.
Yeah, 31.
And you were 15,
14 when we met.
That's amazing, man.
and for years, I mean, that's like all my friends, like I turned all my friends onto Train. It was before Meet Virginia was a single. It was like you guys had just put out the version of the record, I think, that maybe came out on Aware, maybe.
Yep, that's right.
Or it was the demos and then it went to Aware. And
right.
And yeah, it was this crazy deal where my friends and I would always come to your concerts when you guys came to town.
Yeah, that's cool.
And you'd invite us to come backstage and say hi. You critique my demos and stuff. It was really it was a really cool thing for me.
That's great.
Yeah.
We were cool back then.
Yeah.
and kids like you liked us, and then
come on, man.
everything went weird.
No, man.
That was an interesting
skyward.
That was an interesting time for us too, because Charlie, I don't know how many people know even Charlie at this point,
right?
That he was in Train, but he could have been literally one of the greatest bass players of all time.
Yeah, I always think of him as that.
If he would have followed that instead of the other paths that he had, and
right.
He's so great at playing the bass. I don't know if he still is, but man, he was gifted like nobody else.
Yeah, I ran into Charlie, I don't know, maybe 9 months ago out here in town, and saw him when we got caught up, and it was good to see him. Yeah, it's a crazy piece of my history, and a really but for me, certainly one of the things that inspired my whole trajectory.
Awesome.
Because you guys were always so cool to me. It's one of the reasons I'm so I just really hang with my fans and talk to them and try and meet people after shows, is because people did that for me.
Well, the fact that we're both Crush artists too, we're managed by Crush, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We're their kind of people. Because it's not a musical thing for them, even at some point. Of course, they have to like what you're doing,
of course.
But more so they have to like you.
Yeah.
And that's why I think their management company works so well. And when did you start working with those guys?
I mean, it's probably been, I want to say, coming up on a year now. I put out an EP just to kind of get music out after Jack sort of wound down and get myself on the road. And soon after, hired those guys, and then it was got the kind of the best reality check where they're just get off the road, go write your best music. That was kind of their whole deal.
Yeah, that's the way they say it to everybody.
Yeah.
And then you're like, when you say best, you mean easiest, right? Fastest, let's get something out there. No, we're going to torture you.
Yeah.
For a year or two.
Yeah. I mean, I'm out of money, but I'm having a blast.
Yeah. So the things that you started were something corporate, but it only lasted a short time. Why is that? You guys were just not meant to be in your personalities?
It was a weird, it's how life goes. It's just a lot of weird things kind of came into play. I got signed in something corporate. We put out a few records, and they all did really well.
Who was on the record contract? Just you?
No, it was me and my four other bandmates. Yeah, cool. And these are the guys who were entertaining backstage at your shows.
And you were 19, right?
I was 18 when we got signed. Just barely 18.
I think I was 28.
Yeah.
You owe me 10 years of your life.
And 10 years of publishing, apparently.
10 years of publishing.
It was one of those whirlwind things where it's we put out we put out an EP, then we put and had a single off the EP that took, and then we did the full length record, and it was kind of how it
was the beginning of a new kind of music, really.
Totally. I mean, it was a weird thing to be attached to too, because we were on tour with all these punk rock bands,
right?
And I was I grew up listening to Billy Joel and Ben Folds and Bruce Hornsby and stuff, and sort of we just got lumped in with this thing, but it worked.
You were considered emo along with these other. Oh, that's crazy.
More or less, yeah. I mean, that's kind of how it came to be. We always just I just like to write songs that are emotionally connected. I didn't it was
even know what
genre.
Emo. When you say emo, it sounds so weird because it means emotional whatever. What does it mean?
That sounds emotional. Whatever seems pretty much on the money.
But it's so weird. What isn't? Billy Joel was emo. He plays emotionally. I don't know what. I mean, was it kind of punk rock, but more hey man, I'm sensitive punk rock? I mean, is that what it is?
Yeah, more or less. I mean,
sensitive plus power chords.
Yeah.
Sensitive power chords plus
songs about girls. But yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
That doesn't seem like your music to me. I wouldn't call your music in any of your projects emo.
I think people just have a desire to genreify everything.
Yeah, they have to call it something.
And we were kids. I was we were in high school, and so of course, the music that you're gonna write about is songs about chicks and how you get your heart broken. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of the nature of it. And I think because we toured with all these punk bands, there had to be they had to find a way to make it okay
Right.
for the punks to be into this thing.
Sure.
And,
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so that's kind of where we got lumped. And I think some of that maybe I didn't like some of it, but I didn't necessarily care. But eventually, we just got tired. We were on the road for like 3 years straight, and we were high school buddies who grew up best friends in high school, and then all of a sudden you're doing business, and
then you're not best friends at 22.
Exactly.
Huh.
And so
who was the person? Was it you who was like the price that we're paying, as opposed to the reward we're getting, is outweighing?
Well, it was kind of a combination of things. I mean, we were fighting a lot, and we were all such good buddies, and it's like you don't want to fight with your friends, especially over business and shit like that, And so I was the one who finally said it.
Some bands, I can't be in a band like that either, but some bands, that's what they use as their fuel to be great.
Yeah, I hate that. I can't do it. We had a lot of friends in bands and that we toured with that treated each other terribly, and even for as much as we didn't get along at some point, we weren't horrible to one another. We were still respectful on a lot of levels, but
were you able to salvage those friendships then by
we're
not
all
being
so close?
You're all still good friends.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And that's why we did it. I mean, the truth is there was a thought that we would get back to it, I think. Josh, my guitar player, was already kind of making a record on his own. And so I kind of like on a tour where it was just, we had stretched ourselves. I just finally said, let's just go home for a minute and just take a deep breath and see where we wind up. And I did the Jax record, the first Jax record in the process of that, and was going to go make another Something Corporate record.
So Jax Mannequin became your solo project. Before I ask you about that, are any of the Something Corporate guys still in music?
Not really. I mean, Brian, my old drummer, he's amazing, was always like just one of the best drummers and very lyrical, really cool, kind of groovy drummer. He still plays in a band called the Live Oak Review, which is like badass bar, like whiskey drinking music. And they play around town, and they draw.
They play in LA or?
Not a lot in LA. They pretty much play down south. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a couple of bars down there, a place called Stillwater, that they pack out with people, and everybody gets wasted and has a blast. But no, I mean, we have 2 lawyers and a guy who does like big audio installs.
Crazy.
And Brian is like a buyer for a big surf company.
Wow, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Do you guys all surf?
Well, Brian is a huge surfer, obviously. And Clutch, our bass player, is a big surfer as well. And then I mean, it's taken me forever because I showed up in California like right after everybody else was like basically pro surfers. You know what I mean?
know, right.
But my father-in-law started taking me out stand-up paddle surfing like just in the past few months.
When did you end up in California? At what age?
I was 12, 13.
Oh, okay. So no wonder you were being a little shit in
Yeah.
class. You were 2 years into a whole new thing.
Culture shock.
It takes 5 years before you get your stripes.
Yeah.
That's a stage of life that my father always referred to as jerkhood. You would, as soon as you hit 13, you were a jerk until you hit 20, and maybe even past 20.
I think I went to 22.
But as soon as the teen stopped being in the name of how old you were, you were able to graduate.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Makes sense.
Okay, so after that, you go to Jack's Mannequin Project, which is just you.
Yeah.
And somehow Jack is a friend of yours.
It's
And then you said in another interview that you'll never really reveal all of why it was called Jack's Mannequin.
Well,
that sounds like a creepy, sex fantasy, and I'm just going to throw that out there as a possibility.
It's me having mannequin sex is really. I don't want to talk about it, Pat. I thought we left this off the table. No, it's a weird deal. Like, well, truthfully, Jack, I'll tell it here, and I'll probably whatever. But there was this. You're going to get the scoop here, Pat. No, there was this thing where we were me and my old bass player were walking through Philadelphia, and noticed like there were all these like urban like streetwear stores, and none of them had black mannequins. They were all white mannequins wearing FUBU. You know what I mean?
That's
and it
so
didn't make
funny.
and it didn't make any like it was just like
That is so
it
funny.
felt so fucked up in a way.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I thought it'd be cool to name a band the Black Mannequins, but needless to say, that did not seem like the right direction to go. But
I mean, it's a great name, actually.
I love the name,
but I don't know
for me
that you can get away.
I would
with
never pull off the Black Mannequins. But so I had this journal that I always had like stuff scrolled in, and I had like kind of a page where it was like, if I was going to name my solo project, what would it be called? And Black Mannequins was on there somewhere,
right?
And then I had written this song. One of the early songs I wrote was a song called Dear Jack, which sort of took on a life through the whole project.
And Jack and Black are very, well, they rhyme. I don't know if you know that.
It was very simple. So one day I just kind of went, and they were all on the same page.
I kind of love that. That's a great story, man.
And so I slid Jack and made it his Mannequin. And weirdly, this is a kid that I grew up with. It was kind of like a mentor and big brother to him. His sister was a good friend of mine in high school. And he had childhood leukemia, was kind of the thing that he overcame, and what I ended up writing this first song for Jack's Mannequin about.
That's crazy.
And then I got leukemia right when we were about to put the record out.
Man, there's an enormous conversation there, but can we play Amy I from Jack's Mannequin?
Yeah, let's do it. Absolutely.
If you will allow me.
Oh,
I would love to sing the first verse and chorus. I don't think I'll sing it nearly as well as you would, but if you could bear with me, I'm going to do my best Adam Duritz.
That sounds good to me. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Snow on the ground in Tennessee. North came south at the tops of the trees. Another long winter trying to fight this freeze. Waiting, but the cold's got a hold on me. Hold on to me. Hold on to me. Amy, I never felt this kind of cold before. Amy, I never feel this way again. I never felt this kind of cold. So give me a cloud, there's so much at stake. Decided to walk, there was ice on the lake. No, I never worry, cause it never breaks. Though I hear it cracking under my way. Another long winter trying to fight this freeze. Yeah, I'm waiting, but the cold's got a hold on me. Hold on me. Hold on to me. Amy, I never felt this kind of cold before. Amy, I may never feel this way again. Amy, I can hear your bare feet on my bedroom floor. And maybe I never felt this kind of cold. Never felt this kind of hold on me. Never felt this kind of cold on me. Never felt this, Amy. I never felt this, Amy. Amy, I never felt this kind of cold before. Amy, I may never feel this way again. Feel this way again. Amy, I can hear your bare feet on my bedroom floor, but you're not here anymore. And maybe I never felt this kind of cold.
awesome.
Cool.
I mean, I was really in the zone. Jerry, you did fine. Andrew, I think I give you a C, around a.
I'll take a C any day.
Me too, man. In school, and were you writing songs like that when you were really? I mean, you wrote that when you were just a kid, huh?
No, this one was more recent. This was off the last one. So
is that about somebody that you know, or was it?
No, I mean, I guess it's probably about a lot of somebodies that I know.
Sure.
I suppose
I'm the same as a writer. It's hard to. We write enough songs that they can't all be the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you try and write the truth into the stories, maybe sometimes that aren't wholly yours, But yeah, there's some people in that one.
Cool. Well, I have so many things to tell you. Like the fact that we have a history is really cool, and to think that. A relationship that you started with Train back in the day inspired you in some way is really cool. Last night, I watched your documentary called Dear Jack, and man, I don't think I've cried that much since I watched The Notebook. like I'm telling you, man, I cry a lot. I just do.
Yeah,
and. That was the most, I have two friends that have survived leukemia. My friend Bart Hendrickson, who's a musician.
Okay. And
my friend Delta Goodrum, who's also a musician, an Australian singer-songwriter who is on The Voice there.
Okay.
She's a massive, massive star. And that happened right in the middle of her career, just like yours, when she was really young. She may have been around 21. Mm-hmm. So... this devastating thing comes to your life, and you start to film it from the first minute that it happens. But I want to walk from the beginning, because it's such a really beautiful story of pain and overcoming something. But what I found out is that your vocal coach, or your vocal doctor, I should say, in New York, was the one who wanted you to be seen. And his name is Dr. Kessler, is that right? Because that's the guy that I've seen in the past.
Yeah.
He's a lovely guy.
Lovely guy.
But obviously you're like, oh man, I'm tired and this is happening. I'm not singing great or whatever, right? So you would just do your regular routine and go see Dr. Kessler since you're in New York.
Yeah.
And he looks at you and he goes, hey buddy, we gotta go see somebody. Is that basically how that happens? He just recognizes in you that it's not just your voice.
Yeah, his comment was that my skin looked translucent. that was sort of where he it was interesting, because I was on the road with Jax. It was the first tour. We were doing these secret.
This is the first tour.
It was the very first tour. We basically just finished the record, and I didn't want it to be like, oh, this is my solo, whatever. I was trying to be really discreet about it. So we just booked a bunch of shows and kind of let the word get out kind of thing that we were doing it. But my voice was just battered in a way that, I was used to singing 5-6 nights a week.
Sure.
And I was young and we were partying a lot. So I kind of put it off on that. I was like, it's because we're smoking weed every day.
I'm hammered all the time.
Exactly. Truthfully, I was. So I had really spent a couple weeks just denying that anything was really going on. Though I remember I had conversations with friends along the way, that I was like, it feels like my systems are shutting down. Like something just feels weird in my body. And so I finally went to see Dr. Kessler, and he was just like, your skin, something's not right about you. And so he took blood work, and that was the deal. He's like, he did all his regular voice stuff, and then he's like, I'm going to just take blood work and send it off and see what happens.
Right.
And I got the call the next day.
Yeah. And they said, hey, Andrew, come in.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was.
But they told you on the phone?
Well, it was interesting. It was actually the day I was mastering the record. So
Jesus. So you're in the studio.
I don't know if you ever worked with Ted Jensen. Are you familiar with him?
Sterling?
In Sterling, right? So Sterling's down in Chelsea, and it's this big concrete building.
Right.
So I had been in Sterling mastering the record, and I literally, we were I was like ready to party. We were like, oh my God, it was like the
Yeah.
record is finished. Like I
Right.
have drugs in my pocket. Like we're going,
Yeah, of
we're going to
course.
go hard.
Not
you know,
prescription drugs.
no, of a prescription.
Illegal drugs.
Illegal drugs.
I have illegal drugs in my pocket.
I'm ready to have some fun. Yeah. And I mean, literally, I'm like, we're like at the finish line, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna burn the master so you can take it. I'm calling my boys,
Dude,
meet me
yeah,
in the
you're
city. Let's
so
go.
psyched. And how do you feel? I mean, you still feel like shit, but you're
No,
like,
I felt like I was on top of the world,
Oh,
man.
okay, cool.
You know, it was a weird thing because I had so much energy towards the music we were making.
Right.
It had this weird override switch that whatever was going on in my
Sure.
body, it was like I could really just deny it fully.
Right. Yeah.
And so when I got outside, you know, I went to like, I took my Polaroid, I was gonna go take some pictures and I had like 16 messages on my voicemail on my phone.
all from
Yeah, it was just call us. Like, I mean, it was it
shit,
was
man.
crazy, and I was just like, holy shit, something
Like,
is
that's
not good.
that doesn't
you know, like,
sound right.
Yeah, so I called
no.
him on the street, and he's like, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm in Chelsea. I'm
You're talking to Kessler?
to Kessler."
Okay.
And he said, "I need you to go inside and, you know, wash your hands and sit down someplace and call me when you get there." Like, and I was like, "Yo,
Wash
just
your hands?
yeah," because my immune system was was zeroed out in such a way. The way he's like a wind could blow the wrong thing your direction and kill you right now is what he told me.
Oh, baby.
And so I was like, okay. So I went inside, and I mean, you know, you can look at some of this with humor, and I did it even at that point, truthfully. But like, I remember because he told me as I picked up the phone in the office off of Ted's studio, and I call him, and he says, you know, you need to go to the leukemia and hematology area at the
They're
New
waiting.
York Presbyterian.
They're expecting you.
They're expecting you. And this is like right before, what is it? It was right before Memorial Day weekend. He's like, you need to get there quickly because there's doctors waiting for you, but they're not going to be there all night, you know? And,
baby.
and I remember, and so I made one phone call to my manager, of course. I never called anybody, you know, I called my manager, you know, I was like,
Dude, you're so like driven. You're so driven
it
by
was so
the
bad.
thing.
It was so bad.
But I mean, you know, it's what's making you a successful person. So
Yeah, but so I call him, and the first time the word leukemia leaves my mouth, I'm saying they're sending me to the you know, and I start bursting out, and just then Ted walks out of the studio door, and he sees me, and I'm just like, the word leukemia is coming out of my mouth, and I'm just sobbing, and I just see him, and he's like, and like runs out the door the other direction.
He gets the hell out of there.
And then
He was probably like, he thinks that the tracks that I mastered had leukemia, and they're so terrible that
It
he's
sound
gonna.
like disease.
He wants his money back. I'm out of here.
So that was it. I got in the car, and
Man, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember getting in a cab with this Rastafarian guy, and he was like just doing his Rasta thing, just had full head of dreadlocks, just
Sure.
jamming Marley. And I had $13 in my pocket. I didn't have enough to make it to the hospital. And I'm in the car, you know, calling more managers, you know, crying, and like, you know, on my way to
But
this.
you have a cell phone.
Yeah, I have my cell phone with me. And so I'm halfway through Central Park when I realize I don't have enough money to get there. I see the thing hit, and the guy had obviously heard what was going on. He was so sweet. He's like, "Don't worry about it, dude. Just let me get you there." You know, and yeah, it's pretty gnarly. Yeah, but here we are, almost 9 years later.
Okay, I'm gonna, before I start to cry again. So now I want to connect to your friend Jack and also your uncle.
Yeah.
So these two very strange coincidences happened because, you know, here you know this kid Jack. When he was diagnosed with leukemia, how old was he, and did he survive equally?
Yeah, he was a baby, actually. I didn't know him.
He was a baby.
Yeah, I didn't know him then. So I knew Jack, basically. I met his sister when we were in high school, and I knew him when he was probably like late elementary, getting to middle school. And I was like the musician, like cool friend of his sister, and he loved music, and he was taking, you know, starting to take guitar lessons, and he had survived childhood leukemia. And this was always kind of a thread through his deal, because he was a fighter, like literally became this fighter. Like he beat the shit out of people in school. You know what I mean? Like
This is in California?
in California. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
funny.
he was this amazing kid, is this amazing kid to this day. And you know, but I think having grown up a survivor and somebody who was programmed so young to survive and to fight, he just had these things that were kind of in him. That,
Did you talk to him when you were diagnosed and you were like, dude, this just happened to me?
Yeah, I'm sure we spoke and saw each other along the way. And his sister and I were, remain good friends. And his family, actually, they were really, integral in helping steer me in the early days, finding doctors and things like that.
Okay, because you moved from the New York stuff to California. But in what process was it that you did that? How long
were you
in the New York hospital?
I was there for like maybe a week, maybe a little bit more than a week. It took them about 4 or 5 days to actually officially diagnose me.
And were you insured by like AFTRA or some musical entity?
It was a miracle, actually. My mom made me get Blue Shield insurance when I was like 18. She was like, "You will not leave this house without insurance,"
Wow.
and so I got it, and then I had AFTRA insurance, and I remember my business manager calling me, years before saying, "Well, you're eligible for AFTRA now. Do you want me to just cancel your Blue Shield?" And I remember it vividly too. I was like, you know what, like, who knows how long this music thing, who knows, just keep them both.
Something that my mom said, and you needed
so
both.
I was double insured when I got sick. Yeah, but not to get political, but there is a finer point on that, which, like, had I not been, or had I been in the situation that a lot of people, have been in the past and hopefully will be in less now that there is, more insurance, like, I would have been, one, I would have been broke, and two, I probably wouldn't have gotten the care I needed to
really
survive. Yeah, absolutely. No question about it.
Wow, that's incredible, man. Yeah. So, your uncle, sorry, he dies when you're real young.
8.
But he was the only musical entity, like, or person in your family, really, right?
Well, there was music in my family. He was the only entertainment business guy. He was.
Oh, okay.
My uncle produced the Jane Fonda workout videotapes. That was his baby.
So he had to see Jane Fonda, like, in her best years, be mostly naked.
Yeah, I mean, she had the book that came out, and he was this crazy entrepreneur. He was like one of the guys behind the waterbed craze in the 70s. He was this amazing man. He was this amazing
I kind of love this guy.
Yeah, we would love this
Did
guy.
he have like the greatest van with like horses painted on the side or anything?
No, he had the greatest mansion in Newport Beach.
Oh, did he really?
And a couple of awesome Ferraris too. He was like,
and this is your mom's brother?
My mom's brother.
Wow,
yeah.
crazy.
And he was this amazing dude. Like, and as a kid, you go over to their house.
Wait, hold on. I'm trying to like put this together because you come from Massachusetts and then your way to Orange County is through all these other avenues. How does your uncle get there? Where's he from?
My mom's side of the family is from California.
Okay, so she ends up at home.
Yeah, so exactly. Well, initially we spent a year in California to be with her brother, in his last year, and then we ended up in Ohio and then back in California again.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, he was just this amazing kind of magnetic dude that for kids. I mean, he was funny. He was larger than life, and he had awesome toys at his house. You know what I mean?
And what happened to him?
He got a melanoma on his neck that was diagnosed late, and yeah, but he was this really positive guy. Like years ago, I had Be Positive tattooed on my arm because that was his whole. As he was passing, he was just so. So hugely positive through the whole thing. He never complained.
I'm like in that phase right now where I want that for myself. Like when Jonathan Daniel and Bob McLean and all the Crush, we talk a lot about the successful people, like the people at the top.
Yeah.
Either are or surround themselves with the most positive people possible.
Yep.
Like and he tells a story about Les Paul, who created the electric guitar and the keyboard and the sound system, and that's what he attributed his success to. Yeah. I surround myself with positive people. I went and I watched the Super Bowl in Bob Kraft's suite. Bob Kraft owns the New England Patriots. He says the same thing. I was like, man, Bob, you really did all right for yourself. And he was like, I surround myself with the most positive people I can find. And there's not any speck of that doesn't make sense.
It's crazy the power it gives you, and I preach it, but as with all things, it's hard to live it sometimes.
But you did.
But that was a scenario where it really, having had a role model who it was when he passed away that I started playing piano and writing music. It was right after my uncle passed.
Yeah, what was that about?
It was just how I
did that?
coped with it. You know, I'd
Right.
always written poems. I was always I was always an emo kid, you know,
Okay.
from a young age, you know, but I you know, my brothers and sisters were all good at sports. I was into drama and I was into music, and that was just my identity in a big family, you know, and
Because
so-
you're one of 5 children?
youngest of 5. Yeah.
You're the youngest of
So I
5.
had to learn how to be loud, you know, and that's where I put my energy. And so when he passed away, I had a friend whose dad was teaching me how to play a little bit of piano. You know, he was in like a bar band kind of vibe, and so I just started playing the piano and singing, you know, and so I always had this weird connection to my uncle. You know, I always felt really deeply sort of connected to what he was trying to do and sort of where he was going and trying to make a big, you know, be a show business guy. Like I wanted that, you know,
Sure.
in a way. And so when I ended up having cancer, it was like, okay, this is where the circle becomes
Right.
complete. It's
This
like
is where-
he was so positive and he didn't make it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it.
And
we're gonna turn it
you
around.
really believed that the whole time, right? You were like, man, I'm here. I'm going to kick this thing's ass. You
Yeah.
really, because it seems like you were in your documentary, even when you were down, it seemed like you had to tell yourself, don't say what you're thinking.
Yeah. I mean, there was a moment in the documentary, which is the one time that I really remember being totally like where
You were like, I'm finally scared.
yeah. And I remember that, and it was before the transplant. And I remember thinking like, wow, this could go. I mean, it could go the other direction. I don't think it's going
And
to.
it could have.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm at that point, and then that
Your dad
time.
asked the doctor if he should have all your siblings come and say goodbye to you. Like, holy shit, dude.
Yeah, there was a point where I had pneumonia in the first round of chemo that it was close call. You know, it was a really close call. And then the transplant, because I already had pneumonia, the transplant becomes this thing where if I don't recover in time, then the pneumonia can come back quickly. You
Right.
know, and so I was aware of it. You know, but it's like I have, you know, my girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now. We just had our first baby, you know, like she never bought it. She never thought I was going to go, you know, like, you know, and I had people around me who believed it.
You guys broke up right before you got sick.
Yeah, that's another layer.
Did any part of her say, dude, seriously, you got leukemia to get me back?
I got to tell you, man, I was so lucky. Like in the weeks before I got sick, we had finally started getting back together.
Oh, you
We
did.
were in the process, but I think about it every day. Like, what if I didn't make that phone call? Like, what if, you know, in the middle of that tour, I flew home to see her actually, you know, and it was kind of like, everything in me was like, this is over. Like I had my 9 months of like wiling out and losing my shit. Like that's half the reason I did it, because I knew we were going to get married, you know, like, and I had to go lose I you know, I was doing this record. I was like, I just need to be like free and kind of, and sort of like not attached to anything, you know? And so eventually though, like we started kind of reconnecting and we had been talking all the way up to that point, you know, and so when I called her, it was really, again, all these weird coincidences. She was going to be in New York the next day for a job interview. I mean, there was all sorts of stuff that happened, but yeah, it was, you know, that in a lot of ways is weird, because that was a whole second recovery thing, was, you know, us, you know, it's taken a lot of years, you know, I finally, you know, after all this time, you know, like I finally went and, you know, got the head shrunk for the last few years and really started working on my relationship. But it took like getting through the cancer stuff to like really figure all that stuff out too. You know, it's a weird deal.
I'm going to ask you this, and I don't expect the same answer, but when I asked my friend Bart if he could, I got those two together to write a song with me once, Bart and Delta.
Yeah.
Because they had this thing in common.
Yeah.
Bart is, you know, he's maybe 48 now or so, and Delta is still very young like you. She might be 30.
Yeah.
But at the time, I think Bart was in his late 30s, and Delta was like a 22-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And I was like, Bart, you know, because she had just gotten over it. Her hair was still coming back in, and I was like, Bart, how would you describe, you know, your experience with it? And he was like, it was a gift. It opened my eyes to so much that I really didn't know. I found out a lot about a lot, and I was like, wow, man, like what a devastating gift. You know, but that's
way to
how he
say it.
described it. And and she was like, me too. I really learned a lot about myself. and what I was capable of, and also what others were capable of.
Right.
And then they both were like, all the people that we met, that we got to see all the powerful things that are being done by humans that we don't get to see otherwise. You know, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can't. It's taken me a long time to get to that part of it, the gift part. You know,
Yeah,
like
I don't expect that I would ever say that about it, but
it's a really weird thing because for how positive I was and through the whole process, you know, I really lost myself afterwards, you know, in a big way, like in a crazy way that I never expected. You know, there's a weird Zen thing that happens when you're fighting and you're in the survival kind of mode.
Or your job is one thing.
Exactly, which is an amazing gift. You know, to have one thing,
right?
To have one
all
thing
I
to
have
focus
to do
on
is live.
And that's and it's amazing the shit that falls away at that point.
Right.
And it becomes this really pure thing where the people that are around you are, and you're connecting in these major ways. I mean, there's a really beautiful thing that happens in there if you open yourself up to it. And I made the mistake of not. I mean, I went to work right away. I did my first show on the 100-day anniversary of my stem cell transplant.
I saw that.
It's the happy ending of the movie. But if I could really, you know, for me, I was so ambitious and I was so fueled and willed.
There must have been like a really positive result of that. I mean, you know,
I lived. Yeah. No, it was.
No, but of the show, like you go and do this show probably when everybody's like, dude, you're out of your mind. But you did it. And it must have been really fulfilling. Your fans were freaking out for you.
It was. It's a weird thing. I have this dual view of it now, and you can't go rewrite history, and that's not my whole point. You know, like I think that was what kept me alive in those 100 days, because I was like, that's this very peculiar time where anything can go wrong, and
right.
I was conditioning myself to play that gig. We just put it out there on the horizon, and there was a lot of that stuff in that year. But I made the mistake of not working on my head. You know what I mean? I let them fix my body, you know what I mean? And
right.
I did not take into account the toll it would take on my brain and my confidence and all those things. And I'm really honest about it now, because there's so many kids who go through this, and there aren't the same kind of support services for young adults as there are for children, as there are even for grown adults. You know, it's just it's kind of this weird nether category of cancer patient that you kind of think like it's these iron wills, it's the kids. These young adults are stronger than the older people, and they're more advanced than the younger one. You know. But you just don't realize, like, to get plucked out of that time and think about your early 20s, that's when you're most confident. That's when you just think nothing's going to go bad,
right.
You know? And when it does, for me, it really shocked my system for a lot of years, you know, like to the point where now making this record after making 2 Jax records and sort of finally it's like, okay, wait, I get it now. This is a gift, you know, seeing my baby born that, did you have a
little girl or boy?
Little girl, Cecilia Kate, and she's the product of, like, you know, my doctor made me bank sperm and you know, and my wife and I had to go through IVF because of all the treatments I went through, and like now I have this baby here that it's like, oh, I wouldn't have her if that didn't happen, you know? And so all of a sudden this whole thing does this spin where it's like, okay, I get it now. You know, maybe it took a while for me to get there on that, you know, but I finally spent the time working on myself and, you know, my marriage and my, you know, and getting some of the unhealthiness out of my world that I sort of built back into it.
That's so awesome. I think, you know, most of my life I've always hoped that a doctor would ask me to make some sperm deposits, because then I wouldn't feel so guilty about all of the things that I'm doing. So anyway, but that's a weird note that I should probably talk to your therapist about. I go once a week. You're welcome to join me one. You're welcome to join me this week.
Anytime. Yeah.
Can you play us something from your new record? This is a song that is a single now.
Well, this came out off the EP. So once I kind of wound down Jack's Mannequin, I ended up just like trying to quickly put something out just to, you know, prove that I could, you know, and so I put this out, and this is a tune which I'm bound to mangle here, but it was a poorly titled single because nobody can pronounce it. So,
but it's synesthesia, right?
Synesthesia, yeah. It's
synesthesia.
Yeah, okay. See, my point exactly. You have it pretty good, and even still, you know.
Right. Do you want us to fix your microphone?
No, this is good.
Tell them what the word means. It's really fascinating.
Well, I learned about this from a God, I don't even know if I can remember where I learned about it from, but it was this idea of like people who can see and taste sounds and colors, and it's this crazy condition. But like a lot of people who have it, when they hear music, tones in music make certain colors.
Isn't that cool?
And so like, and their synesthete art, like, which literally they all, like, synesthetes actually see the same color when they hear the same sounds.
They all see the same color.
That's my understanding.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. So I kind of wrote.
How many of those conditions, how many people with that condition are out there? There's three. Bob.
No, it's crazy. I got interviewed by Psychology Today by a synesthete who was like, who was so fired up that this song was written and said that it had been spreading through their community.
Oh,
like,
that's so amazing,
and
man.
and she told me. I mean, we talked about it at length, and it's fascinating to hear like people have this, and a lot of people don't even know that they have it because they just think that it's. The way it's the way they've always processed the world around them.
Wow, you're so much smarter than all of us.
No.
Pergo has a master's degree in English. He doesn't come close to this. I've had hundreds of conversations with him. None of them are this interesting.
That's fine.
Jerry,
What?
I've known him for 25 years.
What?
He has a master's in being a smart ass, and some conversations are very funny, but never interesting.
Thanks,
and
man.
This
Thanks.
is just another one that
Well, the
is
flip
a
side is I'm
failure
not
in my
funny at
book.
all,
But
so.
you, however, Andrew, are very smart. And I enjoy this conversation immensely, and I can't wait to hear this song. I wish Jerry would write a fucking song once in his life. Here we go.
Hit it.
And
Was
with
that a good intro?
That was
I
good.
didn't
Yeah, I like
know.
that. I like
I'm
that.
trying.
Yeah, it's good. That's
I'm
good.
working on it. I'm not very good at it.
All right.
So this is the synesthesia.
All right. Yeah, I saw pictures from the space shuttle, North America at night. And I could almost see my house, I could almost see the rest of my life. Now my mother's in the hospital, and my friends are in the news, collecting trophies for the songs they wrote when we were in the shadow of the moon. I guess I never made a gold record, and I have never been to Mars. But I've traveled around the world, shooting fireworks at falling stars. And I've known you all my life, but I knew you long before that too. So let's go dancing to the songs we wrote when we lived in the shadow of the moon. And I see colors when I hear your voice. Grab your wings, they're putting gravity on trial. I see colors, I don't hear the noise, because we're only flying for a while. Because we're only flying for a while. I saw this picture of my knees twisting high above a narrow beam. And my brother looks so proud, like he woke up in this perfect dream. And I've known you all my life, but I knew you long before that too. So let's go dancing to the songs we wrote when we lived in the shadow of the moon. And I see colors when I hear your voice. Grab your wings, they're putting gravity on trial. I see colors, I don't hear the noise, because we're only flying for a while. And I could love you in the falling rain. Grab your things, this is a storm we're meant to ride. Like synesthesia aboard a stolen plane. It's like we're only flying for a while, flying for a while. Whoa, 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 whoa. And I see colors when I hear your voice. Grab your wings, they're putting gravity on trial. I see colors, I don't hear the noise, because we're only flying for a while. And I could love you in the falling rain. Grab your things, this is a storm we're meant to ride. Like synesthesia on board a stolen plane. It's like we're only flying for a while, flying for a while. Whoa, I can see the colors running when I hear the music play. I can see the colors running when I hear the music play. I can see the colors running when I hear the music play. I can see the colors running when I hear the music play.
Man, that's a great song, dude.
Thanks, man.
You're a
Thank
great
you.
lyric writer. I was reading these while you were singing. Holy shit, man.
Thanks, brother.
You're doing some serious work. Do you think that this was inspired just by, you know, like, where do songs come from for you? Is it like Tom Waits said that songs come to him and he tells them if they're allowed to show up or not. Like, he said sometimes if he's driving and he's with his family, he'll go, "Not now." Like, he talks to songs like they're,
That's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd love to be Tom Waits. That sounds awesome. Yeah, you know, this one, it was funny. Like, I'm really good friends with the guys in the band Fun. You know, those are dudes that I came up with for a lot of years in different bands, and this one, kind of the seed of this thing was when I picked up the USA Today one day, and they were nominated for like the most
11
Grammys of the year.
right.
And I had this kind of like, I had this moment where I was like, shit, where are my Grammys? You know, like, and I kind of sat down, and that's where that, like, you know, collecting trophies for the songs they wrote.
Yeah, that's
you know,
great.
and it was this, but it was this really cool meditation where it was like sort of taking stock and kind of going through my own life and sort of trying to find the sort of those moments that add up to what's my life. Maybe it's not Grammys, maybe it's the, you know, maybe it's the relationship
Yeah, what
with my
are
family.
the things you want? Like, what do you want out of?
But really, let's be honest. No, truthfully, it's not that. I mean, you know, it's funny. In a big way, like, I got a lot of the things that I was hoping for, you know, in this past year or two, like just feeling really good, being home, finding my way back from LA back to the beach down in San Clemente, like, finally. And
Do you live in Orange County again?
I do. I'm back right on the border of San Diego and Orange County.
Oh, that's nice. So you drove here. Thanks for doing that.
I drive. Yeah, I do it 5 days a week though. It's like, and it's like, that's why I moved here originally. I was like, I can't do this drive. And then I was like,
Right.
I can't live in this town.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's what happens.
And
When you're used to Orange County, I mean, there's some great things about Orange County.
there are, you know, it's funny. It's sad. It's a sad thing. Like, in the time that I was there, all of a sudden the Laguna Beach and or Real Housewives and all this stuff kind of cropped up. And there's definitely elements of that exist there. But like
We made our first record in Laguna Beach.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
So,
Yeah.
you know.
Laguna. I mean, but Laguna's amazing. You know, there are these great pockets.
Most people aren't on that show who are in Laguna Beach. You know,
it's
and
true.
most people who are in Orange County are not on the Housewives of Orange County, which my wife is a big fan of. If you know those ladies, I'd love to podcast them. Anyway, I'm just throwing
I
that
don't
out
know
there.
them, but I know them through the show because I admittedly watch it. But yeah. So that for me, you know, this is like, I want a big record. You know, it's like I've had an amazing run.
I think you deserve it. You're writing great shit, man.
I
It's
appreciate
like,
it, man. I appreciate it.
You're a great singer and a great writer. But I think Grammys and all those things are on their way. You know, they find their way to you when whatever that song is that woke up a bunch of people to you.
Well,
happens.
and that's really the big picture. It's like I could care less about winning awards. It's really, I just, you know, it's like for as long as I've done this, like all it's been about, and I'm sure it's the same for you. It's like you want to connect to people. That's why we write songs. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you want to connect to yourself, but you want to have this thing with the world. You know, like,
Right.
and I grew up listening to the radio. Like, I'll be the first to admit it. You know, it's like I think there are people who are shy about wanting to make big music, and it's like that's all I've ever wanted to make. You know,
Well, mine isn't connecting with people anymore. I want to be in. This is serious.
Okay,
I'm
good.
being
Yeah.
serious right now, so please don't laugh. Jerry?
I just following Jerry's cue on that.
No,
on,
yeah,
go
I
on.
would rather you took this very seriously.
Go on.
I want to get invited to the party, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And then not show up. That's why I'm writing songs right now.
Wow.
I want to be invited to the party. Of course, I think Jay-Z would probably be the guy having the party.
Yeah.
And then I just wouldn't show. That's why I want this.
Wow.
I think that's a good place to be.
It's very, very negative. It's not that positive guy that you want to be
That's
around.
okay.
But it's
You've
it's
had
like-
the other stuff though, so now it's the party thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to be invited to the party. I'm not coming. But the truth is I have some questions for you to wrap up that I could ask you from my wife's perspective.
Okay.
And the first is you
I'm looking forward to where this is going.
yeah, she says you never clean up after yourself. When are you going to get your shit together? Oh wait, this is the wrong list. Sorry. No, she wants to know. She has these really cool questions that I ask everybody, and the first is what's a great tour find for you traveling around the world? You go to Europe, right?
Yeah.
Do you go into parts beyond the UK, and do you play Germany and Sweden and stuff?
I have, yeah. I mean, it's been a while since I've done elsewhere beyond the UK. But yeah, I have absolutely been out that way.
Is there like, and it doesn't have to be in Europe, but like, sometimes there's a burger joint that you find in Seattle or a great record shop in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Is there something that you can tell your fans or podcast fans about that, something that you found on tour that you wouldn't have found otherwise?
Now, dare I say Japanese chicken wings?
Where's that?
Okay, God, now I'm going to, of course, Nagoya. It's in Nagoya, Japan. They have like this very specific, I mean, of course I'm a vegetarian now, so I have to like just dream about these things. But yeah, in Nagoya, there's, they have them all over. I mean, it's kind of like, I think it's like the food of the city, but it's like this dry chicken wing with sesame seeds on it.
Really?
I'm telling you.
It's dried.
It's really dry, but
So
it's amazing.
It's like chicken jerky or something?
It's not. I mean, it's just a dry wing. It's not like when you go to get
Okay.
when you go to get chicken
Right.
wings or buffalo wings, how they're all like there's
Yeah.
a sauce, it's a glaze, but it's like it's fairly dry.
Got it. I got it.
And then there's sesame seeds on it. You can get a bunch of different flavors. And I'm telling
so
you,
if
it is mind blowing.
If you crave chicken,
it's amazing.
why wouldn't you just eat chicken? Why are you a vegetarian?
I don't know.
Is your wife a vegetarian?
No, not really. No.
Is it a moral
it's a
thing?
discipline thing, really. It's a discipline thing for me. I don't have a lot of discipline. I have really.
But I just don't understand. My son is doing this thing where he's vegan and gluten free, and so
Yeah, I couldn't go there.
being around the guy is torture. You know what I mean?
That was
Because
before he did the diet.
it's and so it's just like it sounds like so much work in its own thing that.
But the reality for me is like I hate red meat. I always have. So
I don't eat red meat.
That was really easy for me to lose. The chicken is a little bit trickier, but yeah, it's something I've done on and off for most of my life.
Okay.
And in the times where I'm sort of looking for exercising some level of willpower somewhere,
Okay.
I usually do it with my food.
Well, I love that you're taking things away from yourself just to do it.
Yeah.
There's
pretty-
no reason.
It's pretty much the deal. It's probably
I
it's
love
the
to
one thing
eat
in my Catholic
birds.
heritage that I've hung on to is just giving myself some
It is,
rigorous,
right?
stringent bullshit. It
is, man. It's that
crazy.
Irish Catholic guilt. It's going to be in you forever.
Yeah.
And hopefully you can pass it on to your daughter.
I'm hopeful. Yeah.
I'm hopeful.
Yeah. My mom was like, "Are you you're gonna christen her, right?" I was like, "No,
No way.
you crazy?"
I
I'm not
mean,
gonna-
of course, we're going to have to have her... the joke's gone. Sorry. I had a
we could
great
just
joke.
delete that pause and get to it.
Yeah. What was the joke? Was going to be, we're going to have her circumcised, but we're not, no christening.
I made that joke to my wife actually, and she got really freaked out. She was like, that's not funny at
Oh,
all.
because that's what they do that shit to
Yeah,
girl.
yeah,
It's
yeah. But
terrible.
I thought it was hysterical. I'm
Yeah,
not really
it
familiar
was a
with the
great
women's
joke.
issue. I think
You and I, we're on this. When you're in a van with a bunch of guys, anything goes.
Anything.
Okay, so what are you a fan of currently? Is there somebody's record, or do you play video games, or is there a television show? Like this whole Netflix thing is so big for people.
I'm like House of Cards obsessed.
Yeah,
Like,
everybody else is
obsessed.
too.
It's bad. I watched it. I mean,
Are you through it? Both seasons?
both seasons
Yeah.
done.
Really,
Yeah, totally.
that's amazing.
As soon as it was
and
on,
you
it was done
can't,
within like
and
3
you can't
days.
wait for the next season, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be looking forward to it. But yeah, it's weird. I'm like a TV junkie. I hate to admit it. Like it's so like the hipster popular thing to be like, I don't have a TV, and I have like 4, and I use all of them regularly.
I don't think it's like that anymore. I mean, really, I was talking to who said that Jake Sinclair, who's working on our record. He was like Netflix, like these television shows are the new
Novel.
They're the new novel.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
They're like better than a movie because they last for 10 hours instead of an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm sort of TV obsessed, so that's definitely up there for
Cool.
me.
So House of Cards sounds great. What is well, I mean, I'm not. This question doesn't make any sense now because you just spent 4 hours telling me why you do this. But so yeah, now I'm mad. Now I'm mad at my wife a little bit for
mainly
that
for the
question.
part. It's mainly the party thing.
You're there for the party.
Well, I just don't
And
want to.
cars?
I just want to leave.
Yeah.
I just want to not show up for the party.
Is there a standout moment for you that led you to being a successful musician? Like, is there like that one thing that really got you, like without it, maybe you're not where you are?
I mean, I think probably like the first show. I mean, I don't know. The first time I put a band together and actually got on a stage and did a gig, it was crazy. It was just so powerful. It wasn't something corporate at the time, but it was kind of the first incarnation of that band.
Yeah.
We played like the high school battle of the bands, in the lunchroom
Did you win?
School. Yeah, we won.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I remember it being like the most powerful thing I'd ever felt. And I'd been on stages, I'd done plays, and I'd always played piano around for people and always loved it. But I think it was that gig, getting on a stage and sort of having the chemistry of having a bunch of people on a stage together and, playing songs.
What kind of student were you?
A political one.
Did you do well?
I did. Well, I did, but it wasn't like what you would consider a classically, a classic good education. I sort of like learned how to get around stuff. I got on student government and learned how to like drop classes and be like a teacher's aide for Spanish class instead of actually, you know what I mean? Like
That's awesome.
And I got out with like a B average, but I think my last year of high school, I went to like 40% of my class periods.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you go to college?
I did not.
I mean, people in college major at that shit.
Yeah.
At like cheating their way through. You're a cheater, is what you're
That's basically
saying.
what I did in high school. Yeah, I didn't do homework for the last 2 years of high school.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
never
you
did.
figured out how to do it. But see, that's a very high IQ kind of, you got to plan that out.
It was a skill set I was proud to develop at the time. For sure.
And so, where do you go next? What is when does your album come out? And what is it called?
Well, I don't know yet.
But it's going to be called Andrew McMahon, right?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, it'll have my name on it for sure. And then, yeah, I mean, you've worked with JD and Bob before. So Bob was basically like, you need to have the record out this summer. So like, that's what we're going to do.
Right.
I mean, I'm about 60% of the way through the writing and the sounds kind of come together, but yeah, we've got next few months to tidy it up and get it ready.
I'd love to write with you, man. You're
Let's
a
do
great
it.
writer.
That'd be amazing.
For me or you, or anyway, or Beyonce, I don't give a shit.
Please.
Let's just go. Let's do this.
I'd be honored.
But so here's another question that I have for you. Are people going to be upset with you? Are you going to have fans that are mad at you that you're not Jack's Mannequin? Or did you have to go through that when you weren't something corporate? Like, what is the phases of being different things throughout a career, especially when you're 30, you're not 50, so you still have passionate fans
Yeah.
that are going to be mad at you about something, or they're going to be like, finally you got out, like what is the vibe going to be?
I think it's gonna depend on the music, and I feel really good about the music, so I'm not stressed about it. I did it once with something corporate, going to Jack's Mannequin, and that was, if you consider the average age of our fan at that point was
4
where they were young.
months old.
Yeah, they were like basically
Babies.
4 months old. But definitely of the persuasion to really get pissed at something like that,
Of course.
and I think having done it once. I'm not as worried about the fallout. Maybe there will be, and
There will be.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be.
I'll make sure of it.
Yeah, people always, and the thing is, that people always. I still have kids who will come to me and be like, and really be passionate about telling me which band they like better than the
But
other.
the great part is that here you are, the singer and the writer in both bands, and in the third project, it's going to be, it's basically the same person doing all of the work.
The DNA is certainly similar throughout, and I think
Right.
the songwriting. In that sense, it's it's still kind of the same focus. It's meant to be these sort of emotionally connected lyrics in the form of big pop songs, So I think the ethos is sort of traveled through all three projects, and I hope they come with me, and I hope a lot more come along too.
Well, my username is going to be called Eco49, and I'm going to blow up your chat pages with hate.
Hate,
Yeah, it's
vitriol.
all going to be.
I want it
Eco49
all.
thinks your record, it's going to be all that.
Please.
So, what is there a yes or a no moment in your life that you think maybe without you're on a different path? And what I mean by that is there are people who, I was asked to be, I know a guy who was asked to be in the Fray.
Yeah.
And he was like, no. Then, years into the Fray, he's like, I'm a real idiot. And
Yeah.
now he's like, has an amazing career, so he made all the right choices.
Right.
So it was a really good no for him.
Yeah.
There are those moments that we all have. Do you have one of those?
I do, and it wasn't a yes or it wasn't my yes or no. It was my dad's actually, and I wanted to go. When I moved to California, I was a very awkward. I came from Ohio, you know what I mean. So I was I was in Huntington,
Jerry's from Ohio. What are you saying?
What part?
Columbus, just outside.
What are you? I guess.
Yeah.
What are you? I guess I'm asking what he's saying about Ohio people.
We're awkward, man. Just
Well,
get over it.
It's more. It's not. It's just more when you show up in California
Yeah, of
in 8th
course.
grade as an Ohio kid. It's a trippy deal.
When did you move to California?
Oh, I was 21.
You were 21?
Yeah, I was older.
So, but in Ohio years, it's like a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
And
Precisely.
So you moved to California
And so the first year was pretty tough, just adjusting, because it was I showed up, I had my socks up high, or my socks crinkled down, and everybody had their socks up high, and I rode a mountain bike, but everybody else skateboarded. Just all the things that matter when you're a kid. It was I was fat, nobody else was. You know what I mean? It was just it was a weird time to be in middle school, and so I really wanted to go to this performing arts high school. There was a place in Idlewild, and I went through the whole deal. I got a scholarship, I was going to go study theater.
You went through all the channels yourself to make this happen.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I got in.
And you got in.
And they're it was expensive. We didn't have the money, but they gave me this insane scholarship, and my dad wouldn't let me go. My dad said no.
Why?
And because I think his, the idea of sending off one of his kids to boarding school.
Oh, it was a boarding school. You were gone.
I was gonna be gone. Yeah, and he was, and I think his whole thing was you're only in a house for another 4 years. I'm not gonna send you to boarding school. And deep down, I don't think he thought it was the right thing for me.
Were you the kind? You seem like you were probably mature when you were 3 years old. So
Yeah, I was definitely an old soul.
So
from the
were you
beginning.
able to take that information and rationally behave about that result, or
No,
were you
I hated
you're
him
an
for it.
asshole? Which way did it go?
I didn't really. I don't know that I made a big scene about it, but I was really genuinely pissed at
For
him
a year, probably,
for a
right?
while until I realized once I got into high school, and had normal friends, and it was there were people walking around face makeup full time at this
You
school.
were
You know what I
trying.
mean? It was
You were trying to make your transition easier on you.
I was trying to escape the idea of
Right.
being a socially awkward kid in high school.
But you must have been smart and ambitious to be able to do all that yourself. That's a badass, hey, can you manage my band is what I'm asking.
I hope so. Yeah. I mean, but don't tell JD though. Or can I just collect a commission? Is that
that's
possible?
like so ambitious, man. I mean, as a young guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I've never lacked has been motivation or
it's
ambition.
true.
That's sort of always been my deal.
It really is your deal.
Yeah.
I think that might be the curse or the blessing that we get in all of this.
It's true.
So is there a way you could tell everybody how to get in touch with you in like how do we
My telephone number is
Instagram
yeah
or anything like that?
I think so. I try to remember if I actually know all this stuff.
They don't need your passwords.
I think it's no, I know, but I truthfully don't know. I think it's at Andrew McMahon Music is my. Hold on, I'm gonna pull these up on the phone.
We can find out and then put it up at the end when we put it up.
But I'm like on Facebook, it's Andrew McMahon Music.
Cool. Okay.
And then AndrewMcMahon.com, and then you can get to anything else through there. I think it's AndrewMcMahon.com. Yeah, it is. I own AndrewMcMahon.com. That's official. So you can get all the information you need there.
Oh, that's great. You're not renting anymore.
No.
Oh, that's great.
I think we had to somebody squatted on it for a while, and at some point it got free, and so we got our hands on it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just before you go say thank you for doing this and thanks for inspiring me. And I gotta just tell people you gotta if you want to see a heartwarming, amazing story, you have to go find the Dear Jack documentary about Andrew's surviving leukemia. And what's the best way they can find that? Would they go to iTunes?
Yeah, you can get it on iTunes, and then you can find information about the actual organization at DearJackFoundation.com. And
right, you have charities too, right?
Yep.
Or a charity.
Yeah, and that's what we do. We focus on young adult cancer, basically.
That's awesome.
And then, so please donate to that if you have a lot of money and you're listening to this. We're doing good work. And then on the website, at the store at AndrewMcMahon.com, I think this week we're actually getting in more DVDs if you're into that whole, holding the copy in your hand thing.
I'm into that. Well, thanks so much, man. I would have talked more about, the documentary, but I already cried once in this interview, and I wasn't going to sit here and sob on you the whole time.
I appreciate you telling people about it.
But really, you are a very inspiring young man, and your wife is seems like a really lovely person, and your daughter seems like she's going to be real lucky to have you two as parents. So congratulations.
Thanks, Laman. Thanks for having me.
That was Andrew McMahon right here on the Patcast. Find him online at andrewmcmahon.com, Andrew McMahon on Twitter, and at AM The Wilderness on Instagram. He'll be on tour with Gavin DeGraw and Matt Nathanson, or as I like to say, Matt Nathanson and Gavin DeGraw this summer, and he should have a new album out very soon. We are on Twitter if you'd like to look us up, and Instagram and Facebook at Patcast Podcast. On the web, we're at patcast.com and available for download on iTunes. Hit us up anytime, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening. I love you guys. Bye.